Untold Stories is a conference started in 2019 by Startup Europe Networks and Startup Hungary. We believe founder stories are powerful, and we pride ourselves on having real, no BS conversations to inspire and educate our community. Building off of our offline events, we developed this podcast with TechCamp Global to bring you untold stories from the region's best founders year-round. In each episode, we try to uncover the details and hands-on tactics behind the founders' successes so you can skip their mistakes and benefit from their years of experience and lessons learned. Our hope is that you will be able to find new ways to accelerate your growth. Let's dive in. My name is Mary Alcantara, and this is the Untold Stories Podcast. Tamás Kádár is the CEO and co-founder of SEON. SEON develops fraud detection and prevention solutions to protect online businesses. They've had an amazing year, astronomical growth, and a high-profile Series A round, making them one of the darlings of the Hungarian startup ecosystem. In this untold story, Tamás will share his experience with product-led growth, hiring international talent, and the process of transitioning into the scale-up phase. Tamás, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start at the beginning. Tell us, what was the inspiration for SEON?
The inspiration came from, a real-life threat we had with my co-founder Bence back in the university years. When we started our first business as a crypto exchange, we have faced quite a few fraudulent transactions. So we were forced to, look at the different solution providers on the market and then develop our own in-house tool. And of course, as why we are sitting here is why the decision was to pivot into this B2B business several years ago and try to build a B2B software as a service product.
So you moved from the crypto world, very kind of controversial, cutting edge, and now you're in kind of the B2B startup space. Can you tell us a little bit about that transition? How's that been for you?
Yeah, I have first came across crypto, Bitcoin about 10 years ago. So, I have quite spent a lot of time into looking how blockchain works and the different altcoins, Ethereum, everything. So this, I don't really vote for any of these cryptos as, one of them is the best or why one of them is better than the other. But I think the whole, technology blockchain is like a huge advantage of transparent, publicly accessible databases. So I'm really a fan of that, and I think anyone who knows how it works is it. So yeah, and now we are not really dealing with blockchain or crypto so much, but we do work with crypto exchanges and other kind of blockchain-based technology companies as a service provider mainly.
What portion of your customers today are these kind of crypto providers or exchanges?
I would say about 5%.
Okay, but the 95% is actually outside crypto. It's kind of traditional online businesses that experience fraud.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about what SEON does exactly.
So we provide an API-based platform which helps online businesses to prevent fraudulent transactions. It can be integrated to different authentication points such as login, deposit, registration, withdrawal, and we build a complete profile of the user mainly by accessing the digital footprint of the customer and leveraging machine learning in order to rescore these customers and flag them in order to stop them to make any dishonest activity on our customers' platform.
And who is kind of your ideal customer? Who is SEON really great for?
Yeah, our ICP are mainly today businesses between 50 to 500 people. And I would say mainly they are in the financial services sector. So online lending, payment processing companies, neobanks, crypto exchanges, forex trading companies, and as well as we do work with iGaming companies and some other industries as well. So it's really hard to identify just a specific ICP because the product is industry agnostic. So any online business can use it who has problems with online fraud. And as well as, there is no restriction of how big the business have to be in order to work with us. So we try to work with even small businesses and, as big businesses as like Air France or KLM.
And where geographically are most of your customers? Is it all around the world? Is there a particular niche where you're more active?
40% from Europe, 30% from the APAC region, so Southeast Asia mostly, 20% from Latin America, and the rest is North America.
So it's pretty distributed, I would say. Yeah,
indeed.
Cool. And so you help not only with fraud detection, but also preventing fraud, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about that piece?
Yeah, so, detection and prevention is one leads to another. So if you detect, suspicious customer, then obviously you have to prevent them to take any further harm to your business.
So you're kind of coming up with ideas for, you're helping them identify actions that they can take to prevent that sort of situation from happening again, basically.
Yeah, of course. We try to, as I said, leverage machine learning, so artificial intelligence, which I don't like to say that much. But that's the point, to actually, adapt to these different patterns we recognize and then just continuously improve based on any new other patterns like false positives and false negatives we get as a feedback from the clients.
Why don't you like to say AI?
Because I think we are very far from actually artificial intelligence, but machine learning is a small part of it. Yeah.
Do you feel like people overuse that as a buzzword, or they try to align themselves? Because AI is obviously a huge trend right now and everybody's looking for the top AI solutions, but maybe people don't always understand what this means. Is that part of what you're thinking? Yeah,
in today's world, I think everyone try to say as much buzzword as they can just to make them more interesting. But, in many cases, there is not much of truth behind or real technology.
Cool. Okay. So in this series, we want to explore also the human side of entrepreneurship. So what made you want to become an entrepreneur? What can you tell us about your journey?
Yeah, when I was in high school, I have started my first business. I never, wanted to work for someone else, but always find a way where I can be my own boss. So I started out around 16 years old. I was buying smartphones from China, and I have started to learn how to program myself. And, I was dealing with these phones for quite a few years. Until I got to know crypto, and then I got really fascinated by crypto and Bitcoin and all this. So even when I was younger, I was always thinking about, in the summers that, what my business I could start when I was even like 12 or 13 years old. So I was quite interested into launching my own thing at an early age, and still I wouldn't imagine myself working in a 9-to-5 job for someone else, but this is 24/7. So,
and how did you kind of educate yourself? I mean, you obviously had kind of an internal motivation to be your own boss and do your own thing and work for yourself. But starting your own business when you're so young and thinking, how did you navigate all of the different things that you need to know to be able to do that?
I was lucky enough to have access to internet at a very early age, so I could utilize Google quite well, and all of the information pieces which I could collect were accessible. So, I spent quite a lot of time on researching things and building out, strategies in order to achieve some goals or milestones. So, just totally like in a autodidact way, so all by myself.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us an example of some strategy that you learned online that you tried in one of your early businesses?
Oh yeah, I was always involved in like different forums, let it be about the smartphone business or of course crypto, or obviously now fraud detection. So I try to, collect every information piece by, looking into different forums and learn about best practices. If I would have to highlight maybe one specific like let's say knowledge, I really like to research nowadays venture capital blogs. So I have newsletter subscription to many of these from Insight Partners, Sequoia, OpenView. Specifically OpenView is very interesting for our business, and I try to consume as many information pieces and as many best practices as possible.
Cool. Have there been different mentors along the way who have helped you in your journey?
Yeah, I would say that, with Benson, with my co-founder, we haven't relied on advisors or mentors. There were always people who, help with feedback and with guidance, but no specifically like a specific person who was mentoring us throughout the whole journey. I wouldn't be able to point out someone like that, but we are always very open-minded, and we try to keep our ears also open to listen to people, collect feedback, and always discuss and build on that. So even I think this is a really important part of building a successful software business to know your customers, listen to your customers, talk with your customers as much as possible. So definitely, I think our customers were also mentors to us, because they were the end users, so they know what they were after, and basically we could build our product in order to satisfy their need.
I want to come back to mentors, but this is actually a great segue into our next topic, which is product-led growth. So you guys are actually a great example of this, and I love how you talk about just being laser focused on your customers. Can you tell us a little bit more about, first of all, what is product-led growth? What does that mean to you, and how does that inform your strategy at SEON?
Yeah, sure. So this actually wasn't something like intuitive from Benz and me to actually decide that we are going to be a product-led company, but it was more like natural way that we wanted to build a product which we would like to buy ourselves as well. And we knew that on the market back then, when we were researching about different tools to solve our own problem, we have recognized that most of these providers are legacy solution providers, and they are targeting enterprise clients, and they are doing this top to bottom sales approach, which means they are selling to chief executives and not to the end users. And for example, they haven't had a transparent pricing on their website, they haven't offered a free trial, they haven't had a self-boarding component. So from the beginning, we were offering a free trial, we had our price is transparent. We haven't had a self-onboarding component until 1 month ago, but we were, from the beginning, we were thinking about, hey, we need to create a software which we also would like to buy, and the buyer journey should be also frictionless, just how our clients also do business. So last year, when we actually were preparing for this Series A round, we have researched, all these different venture capital firms, and we realized that, what we are actually doing is called a product-led growth approach. And fun fact that, Logmin was also a product-led company. And I think from our region, it's the best approach in order to scale up as fast as possible. And what it means, essentially, as I explained, what it doesn't mean, it means when you offer a product with a very seamless onboarding process. So in one hand, when you are a developer at 2 a.m., you try to find a solution for a problem. You don't, scheduling in demo calls, or you don't, you don't want to essentially speak to people. You want to just, try a tool and then propose to your manager in order to buy that or subscribe to that tool. So in order to achieve that, what you have to do is you have to be transparent with your pricing. It has to be straightforward to understand your commercial model. You have to offer some kind of a freemium or free trial in order to prove an ROI for your clients. And as well as interesting part is how onboarding works. So what we could accomplish in the last couple of months is to actually launch our self-boarding component, which means anyone who accesses our website can start a trial, a 14-day trial of our tool. And basically this helps them to understand and, just become a product advocate as soon as possible, and not by the necessity of speaking to actual, salespeople, who we don't call really salespeople, but that's another thing. So PLG means when, the product sells itself, you don't have to spend money. You shouldn't spend money on expensive salespeople who go, door knocking. But what you have to do is build a world-class product that sells itself, and then you have to focus on inbound and organic growth in order to just spread the good feedback and the the good the client's feedback is something that should help to just create a brand awareness and be known in your own field.
So the self-onboarding process you were talking about, how long did that take you guys to implement?
I think about 3 to 4 months.
And how long does it take a customer to actually, onboard and integrate SEON into their processes?
Well, with this self-boarding component, we are actually, it was for me a very important point to actually start to use the tool or get access to the tool by maximum 2 clicks. So if you go to a website, if you click on start a free trial, then that's our CTA, one of the CTAs, and then you click on the Google authentication box, then you just authenticate yourself through Google, which is the second click, and then you just launch the dashboard, and then you're in the product, you started your trial, and then if anyone wants to integrate the tool, because you don't have to actually implement an API. We call it API-led or API platform because that's how businesses understand what you do. But actually, you can just try our Chrome extension, or we have the graphical user interface, which allows you to look up email addresses, phone numbers, IP addresses, and receive all the rich information you can see through SEON about these customer data points.
So you're giving them value even before they, get to the kind of more complex levels of your product, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Spot on, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's also, it's a really interesting thing. How did you, so you said you weren't intentionally setting out to be a product-led kind of business, but there's a lot, I guess, did you hire those expensive salespeople in the beginning and then realize that wasn't working and pivot away from that? Because I think when you have a product-led strategy, you're not spending your money on sales, like you said, but it's more in kind of customer support and, having a really great kind of knowledge center. So, your end users can do a lot themselves. Can you talk a little bit about that balance? I mean, how did you get to this? What were kind of the lessons learned along the way?
Yeah, so until we get to 1 million euro ARR, annual recurring revenue, it was mainly done by, sales, customer success, or customer service was mainly done by Benz and me, so my co-founder and myself. We haven't invested before that to expensive salespeople. We haven't invested in customer service because I wanted to be the first line support to understand what are the pain points of the clients, and I do still even today check every customer interaction and try to learn from that and utilize these feedbacks for product development. And so it was a decision as of just a few weeks before the pandemic that we are launching an office in London. So I relocated to London at that time, and that's when we were set to hire so-called expensive salesperson. We weren't necessarily looking. This
is your chief commercial officer who you hired.
That's right. Yeah. We weren't necessarily looking for, let's say, expensive salespeople, but we needed someone in London who can help us with our international growth and expansion. And we were fortunate enough to meet Jimmy Fong, who is right now also in Budapest, actually, because they are with the UK team over here. So, just 1 week before the whole lockdown started, we opened the office, which we of course had to close down, and no one went to the office for half a year. But that's another story. At the time we were like 18 people, and now after about 13 months, we are 85, and we just reached a 5 times growth compared to the levels of 2020 March.
Congratulations. Yeah, that's amazing. During the pandemic too. So, and why London? Why were you looking at it sounded like it was very intentional that you wanted to grow there.
Yeah, for me, I think London is still a fintech hub and the biggest hub for fintechs in Europe. So if you check how much venture capital money are being invested into startups, if you check like whole Europe, London is 50% of that. and the fintech, as I said, ecosystem is the strongest over there. So it was quite educated decision, I would say.
So you went there more for the kind of funding opportunities than because it's a customer center for you. So.
Yeah, exactly. And also to, be able to recruit from the talent pool over there. So obviously from Budapest, we cannot fill easily some specific roles. So we have to, take quick actions and look for places where we can actually hire those experts.
So, okay. So how you said that you found Jimmy, I guess you were looking for somebody. Were you looking for this specific role, a chief commercial officer, or was that something you kind of developed together?
No, actually, the plan wasn't to just quickly hire someone. It was to settle down, open the office, find someone. But things happened really quickly. So when I was there, looking for an apartment for myself, I was in an Airbnb, and I have met a headhunter who's one of his friends. So one of the presentations Benza did a couple of weeks before, and he said to sit down for a chat with him. And on the same day, he said, he will. Jimmy is also in town, and he will be happy to meet me. So I met Jimmy in a bar. We had some beers and a nice chat. And by Monday he started. This was on a Thursday, and by Monday he started to work for us.
Wow. And this was the first kind of senior outside hire that you'd made in the company.
Yep.
So yeah, what's been the impact of having Jimmy on the team?
Yeah, it's been humongous. So just to develop the right frameworks for efficient sales, and how to build out a great sales playbook, and how to do the same for marketing, and how to set up let's say instant invitation plan for bonus plan for the salespeople, how actually B2B sales works. So we knew about that we have to do outreach and we have to convert the clients, but how and what these people actually do, we were quite unsure at that point. But Jimmy, with his more than 13 years knowledge in the same industry, helped us a lot to actually build out a very well working team, and of course scale up based on that.
So this is maybe a little bit of a controversial question, but we talked about being kind of a product-led company that doesn't focus as much on sales. But now a year ago, you hired Jimmy to basically focus on sales. So is his idea, he's kind of going after the bigger fish, like the big enterprise customers? Is that kind of the strategy here?
Not really. I wouldn't say. We still do need salespeople. We don't call them so much salespeople. We call them product advocates. So our salespeople actually doesn't sell anything. They try to help clients, help our potential clients, with their problem. So what they do is they understand their problem. They try to see through the pain points, and then try to, offer solutions. And also one of the solutions are our tool. And then, see ways how they can implement the tool and how the tool could actually solve these problems. And then, of course, discuss commercials, integration, and everything else that's, required to close a successful deal. So, it doesn't mean that we completely remove salespeople, because even a PLG type of company do need salespeople, because the bigger the client is, the more help they usually require during onboarding or integration process. And definitely, we need still humans to help other humans. So, we have also launched our SEON docs, which is a completely renewed knowledge base and API reference documentation. So before that, we have sent out PDFs files to help our clients with integration and product features and the high level documentation. That wasn't so great, because people just don't like to read 30-40 pages long PDFs and you have to search with Control Command F, and it's hard. So we try to replicate what Stripe or Twilio did well, and is basically to launch a knowledge base that incorporates everything from start to just best practices of the system, or even white papers about specific problems we have recognized with different client types and how to prevent those, even if it's outside our scope, even if it's not related to our solution. They can still read about interesting things that can help them to fight fraud.
It's kind of like a FAQ on steroids. And
yeah, we do have an FAQ included too. Yeah.
So it's not just, so you still have a sales team, but I guess they're kind of more than traditional salespeople because it's more of a mindset, really, the way it sounds like the way you describe it, that yes, their job is to sell the product, obviously, but by really focusing on the customer and kind of over-delivering on what you promise and really just supporting them in every way.
Yep, that's right.
And that takes kind of a different kind of approach and different kind of, training and onboarding.
I would say we try to follow this bottom to top approach of sales, which means we actually help the end users. And if they like the tool, if they like the service, they are becoming also a product advocate, and they also have to become internal heroes in the organization and also to convince other decision makers in the process to buy the product and integrate it and just start to use it.
Yeah, so they become kind of your extended salespeople, like inside their organizations.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's right.
So what would you say are your top challenges nowadays?
One of the top challenges I would say is how to efficiently invest the money we got, because that's a big challenge. We are quite in a high growth phase, which means that we are not spending enough money, which is a good problem to have actually. So we try to see which buckets to fill in terms of marketing, sales, product development. So we are experimenting with a lot of things at the same time, and some of them might work out, some of them not. If I excuse my French, if we throw the sheet on the wall and see if it sticks or falls.
Spaghetti on the wall, yeah.
Yeah. Also,
yeah. So figuring out kind of what's going to be the next thing that's going to help you grow. So keeping up this momentum and So let's talk about fundraising for a second, because you just had a big round, but maybe you can tell us a little bit, because that's also something that, until you're in it, it's kind of hard to really know how that whole world works, but maybe you can tell us about your experience just, fundraising for SEON.
I would say we were quite conscious about the process and how we dealt with investors, because we actually got a lot of interest from different investors. I would say all the top European VC firms have reached out to us in an outbound way, and they wanted to talk to us, which is a great sign. But we were also cautious of our time, because if we were not fundraising, it just doesn't make sense to talk to them. So we tried to push back as much as we could, and then when we decided to actually start the fundraising process, which was I think around last year October, then we started to, of course, develop the pitch deck, the financial forecast, all the different materials that were useful to actually successfully close this round. And we went on the market as of early December, and we could receive the first term sheet in 2 weeks, so that was nice. And it was from another VC firm, but that was useful to actually have a better negotiation ground to be in a better position with other VC firms. So we spent quite a considerable amount of time of speaking to all the decision makers and partners and everyone involved in the process. But that was really useful because we also got great feedback. We could reflect that feedback on our own processes. So we have announced the news of the fundraising March 17, and in these 3 months basically we were working on the legals, which I don't really like, but that's a necessity.
And what made you decide to raise at that time?
What I think is a company should start a fundraise if they have less than 1 year of runway. And actually, we were already profitable multiple times and hovering around profitability. Back then, for us, the timing was at that moment, because we were thinking, that we can shift gears at that time, so we can expand and just invest in growth more. So we thought that we can just grow faster if we have a bigger, let's say, resources pool to try and see things if they work or not.
And also in this last round was the Swedish investor. You mentioned them. Can you tell us a little bit more about them and kind of, why this is a big deal?
Creandum is, one of the most well-known fintech investor in Europe now. They came from Sweden and they are based in Stockholm, but they have offices in Berlin, Silicon Valley. So they are, behind companies like Spotify, Bolt, Klarna. So one of the next bets are we. And they have also invested in some other great Hungarian startups such as Shaper 3D, Craft. So they're very interested in this ecosystem. And, they're also very professional firm. So every interaction with them were like really top notch. And they seem like a great partner. And they have, find all these angel investors who have joined the round for us. So they really made an immense number of intros to just advisors or potential angel investors and, people who we could learn from. So I think, the partnership has been great so far, and I hope that it will remain the same. And I will have them also to see other Hungarian startups that which they might consider to invest into, as they did already. And they are still quite active. They are raising their next fund, so they will also be more. To be honest, we are like one of the biggest tickets for them at this size. They're more like seed and anything pre-series A, but we just fell into the right category still. So we were lucky enough to meet them and get to know them and start to work with them.
Yeah, and that's awesome to be part of that portfolio with companies like Spotify next to you. So that's really cool. Yeah, we also met we spoke to the co-founders of Spotify too. So they help with anyhow all the ways they can. So they try to move everything in order to help other companies. And we also help other companies in their portfolio with advices. We already did that, so it's also great to give back. So you said you had a few high-profile angels join the last round. Can you tell us who these people are and a little bit about their background? Yeah, so not just this round, but also in one of the seed round, we got on board smart money angel investors. So there was Pete Zaborski, who is running a successful business called proprivacy.com, and he helped us a lot with SEO and how to manage organic channels and growth. And actually, we came across him by one of our investors, and basically he had a problem with fraud himself before investing in a company, and investors proposed to him to try our tool to see if it works or not. And in 1 month, we could reduce more than 95% of all the fraudulent transactions. So he decided to invest in our company too. And it was, I think, quite a good validation as a investment for him, because he actually tried the tool and it worked well for him. For the new round, we have now on board the founders of SumUp, so the POS terminal and payment processing company. We have on board the founders of N26, successful German neobank. We have on board the founder of Tide, UK-based business neobank as well, business focused. We have on board as well as the ex-CPO of iZettle, which was a successful fintech, which was acquired by PayPal, and it's out of Sweden. We have also, it's quite a few people actually. We have on board the ex-CFO of Revolut, who I just met last week for some beers. So he was working closely with Nick for the first 3 years of Revolut, and he shared actually some really great insights and stories. What would be your advice to other startups that are thinking about fundraising? Because I kind of feel similarly to you. Don't take on money until you A, know what you're going to do with it, and B, actually, really need it. I mean, if the best would be to kind of go as, far as you can and, make your own profit and fund yourself from that. But it sounds like you got to the point where, okay, now we know what we need to do. And if we have money, it's going to really accelerate our growth. What else would you say kind of to, startups trying to figure out when to do their first round?
I mean, in an ideal world, you wouldn't really need to rely on external funding. So, it's the best if you are the ultimate shareholder of your own firm. But, it's even better if you have a team who also shares the success with you, and also if they are shareholders in your company. But obviously, startups works because they got external funding, and they can grow quickly because they can use the resources in a smart way where they reinvest in things that helps them to grow. I would say when you go on the first time on the market and look for fundraising, that can be even at the time when you have just a pitch deck. So you don't even, I would wouldn't do that, but maybe when you have a website and a pitch deck, then it's already like a good time. Even with a pitch deck, I heard stories when they didn't have the domain and the logo and stuff like that. But when you have an idea, you can already look for angel investors and basically start everything, like the whole operation after you got your micro financing round.
So you've done a couple rounds so far. Can you tell us about your fundraising journey?
We actually have raised funds as of the beginning of 2017.
Okay.
So we have as we finished university, we have in the last semester we started to go to different events and pitched SEON in some of the co-working spaces here in Budapest, and as well as in Germany we did that. And the first semester when we were out of university, we have graduated, that's when we got 2017 January the first pre-seed investment round, I would say, a really small ticket of 50,000 euros. But that was really helpful for us with Bence, to just two of us to start to work out in a co-working space and focus on finding the right product market fit. So we have grown the team up to 8 people by the end of 2017, and then we got to meet Portfolion, the VC arm of OTP Bank. So they have invested at that time 500,000 euros with some other angels and also an English firm. So that was our real kickoff moment, I would say. In 2017, with Bence, we were learning the most, actually, finding out how things should work, how to sell a product, how to build a product. We haven't had much background knowledge from other ventures or from university because that just wasn't there. So
yeah, and so coming back to this idea of mentorship and how you learn, so it sounds like you and Bence were really kind of a strong team from the beginning and could kind of help each other and learn. Is there times though when you would bring in somebody kind of on a case-by-case basis, like, okay, now we're really focusing on this fundraising piece or whatever, and having a trusted advisor? I know you said you haven't had somebody who's been there kind of all the way, but from time to time, how have you kind of sought advice or expertise on these different topics?
In every topic we look for external advice. So even when we started out, to incorporate the company, we talk with lawyers, people who have also incorporated company before or who got their first venture funding. We talk to other startup founders to see what are the best practices, and we still do that even today. So whenever there is a challenge and there is some unclarity, we try to speak with external people, consultants, people from our network, and it's great that we could actually close this last round with the help of also 6 new angels joining from some of the great stories, fintech stories in Europe. So they also help us now to just share best practices, know-hows, how they solve specific problems, and yeah, I think it's very important to always listen to everyone, but then build your own decision. So it's always necessary to not to just always rely on one feedback source, but always listen to everyone and then try to make your own right judgment.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool too. Yeah, that you have these angels on board now in this round. How do you kind of seek their expertise or try to, get them? How do you, keep them active? And I guess you have a board meeting, obviously, with them. But is there other kind of touch points that you try to keep up?
Yeah, we are in WhatsApp groups with them. So when there is something to clarify or when I have some ideas, I can just drop in there and see what their response is. They're really helpful, which is great. And also, it's just really like a shortcut to many different things. And that's why we have actually quite put some focus on raising money for a smart money investor who has a great network and also, help to build the whole platform and the organization. Because otherwise we would have to pay a lot for external advisors, and they're not always the best source of information.
Yeah. So when did you close this most recent round?
Well, officially in March this year.
And how has that been? How have you been able to kind of capitalize on that smart money, I guess, since then?
Very well. So we actually have recurring meetings with some of the angels. Multiple times I have reached out to with the same question to multiple ones of these angels, and I asked their feedback, their opinion, which they're very upfront to give because they're also shareholders in the company. So I think that's a nice synergy, and it's useful to actually have this kind of investors, and that's why I would think that even more than the capital is important, the actual expertise and knowledge of other successful entrepreneurs, and that's why it's just hard to find in a city like Budapest these experts, because just the ecosystem is not as developed as in London.
Yeah,
obviously, because it's a much bigger city. So,
do you ever get conflicting pieces of advice from your angels?
Haven't got any yet.
Oh.
So it's good that I know that it's a good advice which I can implement.
It's validated. Yeah, everybody says the same thing.
Yeah.
So you talked about kind of the differences between Budapest and London. So it sounds like London is where most of your sales team is, right? So this
no,
is
actually no.
No.
It's quite interesting because when I moved to London, I had the idea of building up the whole sales and marketing team in London, just because we were struggling to find the right experts in Budapest, and we couldn't really find really strong players with B2B experience, just because there are not many out of them here. So and Jimmy came with the mindset that, hey, he can write the playbook, he can help Hungarian people to build on that and just do the job as what they would do in London. And it worked. I was quite skeptical in the beginning because, as I said, we're looking for people with experience, but he said, let's look for people without experience, but with just some technical knowledge or who spend time with other software companies. And it worked. So our salespeople now mostly sitting in Budapest, and they are being managed by the commercial leader, Jimmy. So he does a great job on that end, yeah.
So this is something that can be taught. So once you have somebody with the experience and the playbook, you can train up people to do this from anywhere.
Yeah. Of course, you can teach it in university if you want to. You can, collect this experience by working for companies like us. So it's definitely not impossible.
So who's in London then? Because you mentioned you have a UK team.
Yeah, mostly commercial leadership, and also we have, mainly people who fills jobs where you're required to speak native English. So copywriters or other content managers, the head of global marketing. Now we will have 3 new people, so we will be 10 people now. The product marketing manager, SEO manager, and this kind of roles mainly.
And the development and a good proportion of the sales staff is here in Hungary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And how do you feel about, you're still here, you're still based in Hungary, you still feel like this is a good place to run your business? Even your customers are based around the world. I mean, how do you divide your time? Is there a reason for you to be going to other markets physically, or can you do pretty much everything online?
There's always, a reason why you should stay closer to your customers is because the let's say the cultural fit or cultural closeness. So that's one thing. Another thing is time zones. So it's very hard to recruit people for afternoon and night shifts in Budapest who speak Spanish, for example. So that's why we are, opening up to recruiting people in different places. Like we just opened not long ago our office in Austin, Texas, and actually we still struggle to hire people there because all the other companies, now hiring there. So moving out of the Silicon Valley and
everybody's moving from California to Texas. That's
and it's a challenge for us to recruit people because we are an unknown company there with no traction. But nevertheless, we already have one salesperson. Then we are en route to recruit some more, and mainly looking for people who can support the Latin American expansion as well as North American expansion. That's a strategic point, and as well as we are expanding to Jakarta, Indonesia. So we are trying to recruit now 8 people over there, and to support our clients in Southeast Asia. So that's quite also a strategic decision which we have made even before fundraising, but now we can do it much quicker based on the funds we got than just growing organically and then delaying it because of maybe we wouldn't grow as fast just based on the organic resources, organic growth we got. So with the Series A round, we can accelerate all these different strategic plans and execute them in a shorter time frame.
So you have Budapest, London, Austin, and now Jakarta.
Yeah, hopefully soon, yes.
And you're managing all of these centrally, or what's the strategy? I guess in London you have Jimmy, but in Austin and in Jakarta, what are you thinking about having a country manager, or not really? Everybody's going to kind of be centrally plugged in.
Mm-hmm. I would say yes, centrally plugged in. So we plan to invite all of these new hires to Budapest for a couple of months. So 1 month for sales or marketing positions, and a bit more for IT and customer success positions. I think it's very important to, spend as much face time as you can with these different hires, and it's quite a complex product that we are trying to sell to solve quite a complex problem. So I think it's ultimately necessary to share your company's culture, get to know better your new teammates, and just influence how they have to think about things you also have to solve. So I think and because of the pandemic right now, it's quite hard.
Yeah.
But as soon as it's over, they're all gonna come over to Budapest to spend some weeks with us and
get their 1 month of boot camp and FaceTime.
Yeah, maybe a bit delayed, but yeah.
And then maybe every year you get everybody together for some kind of a company retreat. Or
definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so you're expanding to all these different markets, and I think that makes a lot of sense, your strategy about just having kind of people in every time zone, basically, so you can cover the support piece. Are you localizing your content also for all these different countries, or maybe you can talk about that a little bit?
Mm-hmm. Not yet, but it's planned. So we would like to launch our blog and website in Spanish language too. Right now, everything is in English. Every content piece on our website. And I think Latin America is a great and big market, and also there's a lot of fraud that's ongoing there. So for us, that's very appealing. And for the APAC region, where I said basically the second largest market for us, most of the people speak English to some extent, like in Singapore or the Philippines. So I don't think in short term we would like to localize our website to those different languages over there, but maybe long term, yes. We will have to see what's the interest of the markets there. But I think we are quite dominant in Indonesia, Vietnam, and the Philippines. So those are 3 key markets for us, and they speak well English. The majority of the people who we work with. So I think they also mainly search in English to find content and find answers in Google. So I don't think, we would win so much by being completely localized. But it's also a huge investment from our end. So translating services in a good way are quite expensive.
What about German?
The DACH region is not really a focus market for us, mainly because they don't transact online so much. So they don't like to use their credit cards like in some other regions. And I think all German people speak English better than us. So yeah. So no, I think for the German market we would stay English mainly, but it's a hard market to crack on, which we haven't really succeeded in. Maybe in the future we'll see if that's required, and if I see that if we would be totally German on the website, then if the conversions will be higher, then definitely that's something I would consider and do.
Yeah. You just mentioned Germany a couple times, that you spent time there. You were looking for investment from there, but because I think Berlin is also kind of a fintech hub as well. Yep.
It's an e-commerce hub. That's like the e-commerce capital of Europe. But yeah, there are also some fintech companies over there. But you don't have to speak, German in Berlin. So I think that, maybe in next year we might consider setting up also some kind of operation over there, if we cannot do from outside. But we do have people in our company who speaks German, and they also try to sell in German to clients when they come to talk to us.
Yeah, I think even that's another point too. Having people who speak the language is also different. Than maybe the written content is enough to be in English, but when you have the product advocates, if they can kind of get closer. This has been great, Tamás. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do you have any advice for other aspiring founders on their journeys? What's the message you want to leave our audience with?
Yeah, what I would suggest to every potential entrepreneur is to don't be afraid to take risks. So without risks, there is no chance of success. I think that's one of the most important things in business. If you're afraid to take steps, then you're never gonna get where you want to. So and I would say also to don't be afraid to experience with things and see if the spaghetti or the other thing sticks or falls. So don't be afraid to even relocate if don't feel like you are in the right place. So Europe is quite open, and you can easily start business in multiple countries. So I don't think that's a big holdback. There are many successful entrepreneurs from Eastern Europe in London, or even in US capitals, or even Stockholm or Berlin or Amsterdam. So wherever there's a saying which goes like talent is distributed globally, but opportunity is not. So you have to go where is the opportunity. If you don't find investors in your city who you like, then you have to go to another city. And just don't give up on that. So if you think your idea is great, you are as an entrepreneur is the main one who have to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, the investors won't believe in you. If you believe in you and really believe in yourself, then other people will follow and also believe in you, and they're gonna invest money and they're gonna trust you with their business. And you have to be passionate about what you do. So take risks. Believe in yourself and be passionate about it. I think that's a very good advice I would propose to any fellow entrepreneurs.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It was great to get to know the SEON story a little bit more, and we look forward to watching your progress.
My pleasure, and thank you too.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe so you'll be notified when we release new episodes. Tune in next time as we continue to deep dive and uncover more hidden gems in the Untold Stories podcast. Check out our show notes for more resources about the topics we discuss and anything we mentioned during the podcast. Let us know what was your key takeaway from today's episode. And if you found this content useful, please feel free to share it with anyone else you think would benefit from it.